Hey, do you remember your first job? Did you ever have a job like Cornelius did at Superburger where the boss was not very committed? Or did you ever have a teacher in high school? You know, there were different teachers. There were some that loved teaching. They were committed to it. Maybe they were hard on you, but they were committed to helping you learn. And then there were some teachers that really just didn't care. And we all have bosses like that they're asking us for commitment, but they're not committed. The truth is, people will not follow an uncommitted leader. You might do it for a little while to get a paycheck, but the whole time you're drawing that paycheck, you're thinking, I'm going to work for someone else because I do not respect this person because they're not even doing the things that they're asking me to do. So teaching our kids the concepts of commitment is a very important leadership skill that we all need. Jesus demanded commitment from his leaders. You know, there was one person that came to him one day and said, Jesus, I want to follow you, but my father just died and I want to go to the funeral. Can I go to the funeral and then I'll come back and follow you? And Jesus' response was pretty harsh. He said, let the dead bury the dead. Come follow me. Now, why did he say that? He was challenging that guy to be committed. We don't understand all the details and the circumstances of this individual's life. It seems like a harsh statement, but we got to understand his heart. He was challenging this young man to step up and to be committed. Jesus commanded commitment of his disciples. He said, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. And they had to choose to drop their livelihood and follow him. And so we need to teach our kids the concept of commitment. So how do you do that as a parent? Well, there's a little story here about the starfish. And I think the way that we teach our kids the concept of commitment is by teaching them the law of sacrifice. The law of sacrifice says I have to give up something of lesser value to gain something of greater value. Now, there's a story about the New England fishermen, the New England oyster fishermen, hundreds of years ago, back in the 1700s. They didn't like starfish. And the reason the oyster fishermen didn't like starfish is that starfish also fished for oysters. So here's what they do. They catch a starfish, in their nets, they would cut it in half and throw it back in the ocean. They came back next summer and there was more starfish. And they kept doing this for several summers. They kept cutting the starfish in half, thinking they were killing the starfish and throwing them back in. In reality, what they were doing was they were helping the starfish population. Because if you take a starfish and you cut off his leg, what happens is he grows a new leg. If you take a starfish and cut it in half, you've actually created two starfish. Both sides, both halves grow new legs, so there's more starfish. So I'm sure it was painful for the starfish to get cut in half. I don't think he liked it or enjoyed that process, but the end result was that it was better for the starfish. Now, if you're going to be committed, if it's committed to Little League, if it's committed to soccer practice, the culture only plays those kids that show up to practice. There's a commitment. And if you're going to be committed to the Lord, maybe that's drama practice or worship team practice. I will say this, parents, the number one thing that you can do to keep your kids in church is to get them involved in doing something at church. Whatever that is, if they can be involved in a worship team or a drama team or a puppet team or an audio video team, if there's opportunities for your kids and your teenagers to serve at church, get them involved in that. Let them decide what they want to do. Don't tell them what to do, but encourage them in that because that says to them that their church needs them and they're building relationships with other kids at church, but it only works if they're committed. So if we want our kids to be strong leaders, to be strong Christians, we need to teach them the concept of commitment and the law of sacrifice, which says, I may need to give something up. I may need to give up some video game time. I may need to give up some Facebook time to do the things that I'm committed to do.